Released by Namco Bandai in 2009 on the Xbox 360, Magna Carta 2 would be the next installment in the Magna Carta series. Directed by series creator Young-Kyu Choi, this would technically follow the original Magna Carta game, The Phantom Avalanche, that was technically not a direct sequel to that game or the Tears of Blood installment. For story, the game features a young man named Juto, through whom we learn the story from alongside 5 other characters, though only 3 are ever fielded at once. For combat, battles occur on the field in real time as characters build combos and chain these combos between 2 separate weapon styles for each character. Magic, called Khan, is an element based for some characters and physical for others, as it serves as the fuel for building up and unleashing a robust amount of techniques and special attacks. Character skills and weapon enhancements can all be customized by the player, as a numerous amount of side quests litter the fairly open world to accompany the story that is fully voice acted. The story only gets larger from here, so let's cut it down to size for RECAPitation. In the year 1149, Prime Minister Xuanzai would rebel against Queen Abrim of the Lansheim Kingdom and assassinate her, claiming its throne. Princess Rizafilda, who was held prisoner, would make her escape and begin gathering allies in order to resist Xuanzai, starting with an influential noble named Count Alex. 1 year later, as the northern forces under Xuanzai continue to clash against the southern forces under Alex, Rizafilda and her aide Ru battle one of Xuanzai's enforcers, Elgar, but during the clash, the princess is accidentally stabbed, and Elgar remembers he was explicitly ordered not to kill the princess. In response, a powerful energy envelops her and erupts out, commanding attention in the nearby battle, as another 2 years pass in the Lansheim Civil War. We now meet Juto, a spirited boy with amnesia living on Highwind Island, as he helps out his caretaker and captain of the village guard, Melissa. She's concerned how close the war has come to their village as northern forces loom nearby, and southern forces are here likely to acquire the Guardian sleeping nearby. She reminds him the Guardian is a living weapon created by the hero Strauss during the Great War a millennium ago. Based on those, the northern forces have made their own monster weapons called Sentinels and currently use them in the war. Because there's a Guardian on this island, she knows it will become a war zone soon. As he keeps lookout, he notes the airship Lestrada, also used by Strauss in the Great War. According to history, after the global war devastated everything, Strauss released his power from above with the ship, sacrificing himself to revitalize the planet and spread wizardry around the people. His thoughts wander to the past, as some trauma in the past has resulted in his mental inability to use real weapons, and Melissa is trying to help him pass this by wielding a wooden sword for now. She goes on ahead to check on the caverns the Guardian is in, when Juto hears a Southern Forces counter-sentinel unit led by the princess is passing by the village now. Juto goes to see them when a guard rushes in, letting them know a Northern Forces unit is launching an attack on the Guardian Cavern. The princess asks for a guide and Juto offers to go, worried about Melissa. She accepts the help, asking to be called Nephi for short, and introduces a giant warrior named Argo of the Trewa people. As the Northern Forces indeed seek to claim the Guardian despite Melissa's resistance, they release the seal on the monster, as it turns to attack everyone around it, including Melissa. Seeing this, strange new power surges out and overtakes Juto as he charges the monster, taking it down quickly with only his wooden sword. As Juto collapses after the outburst, word of the Guardian's defeat quickly arrives to Xuanzai and his top generals, who suspect they know Juto is the one who took it down. Xuanzai then elects to send Elgar after Juto, who personally wants to see Juto and make him suffer. 3 days pass as Juto wakes up, shaken by this mysterious power within him, but hears Nephi wants to see him now. As he goes to the beach to see her, his head begins to hurt again, and strange visions of the dead surround him. He snaps to and speaks to Nephi, who is impressed by the power he has, however unknown. As a leader of a counter-sentinel unit, she hasn't seen anyone solo a Guardian like that before, and feels he would be an asset to her team. She understands his nervousness about his powers, as she too has powers she cannot fully control yet, and so focuses on using it to protect others. As the Southern Forces prepare to transport the Guardian off the island, Juto aids in repelling the Northern Forces' advance. As troops storm the beach, the Northern Forces bolster themselves with siege weapons, now overwhelming the village defenses, as Juto is assigned to head into the battlefield and support as a combat medic. During the battle, Elgar appears personally and easily overpowers Melissa in a duel, knocking aside her sword and strangling her to death quickly. Overcoming his anxiety about war, Juto picks up Melissa's blade and attacks in a rage, until the Southern Forces send up flares to pull back and regroup. Moving with them, Juto fights his grieving over Melissa as he boards the Southern Forces' ships and leaves his home for Abizet. Alex is there, and while Highwind Island is now occupied by the Northern Forces and claimed the Guardian, he advises against liberating the people there, seeing the island as having no strategic value. Outraged, Juto sucker punches Alex, but is quickly defused by Argo. Waking up later, he explains he's decided to pursue Elgar to get revenge for Melissa, and Nephi tells him a smarter way would be joining the Southern forces and growing stronger first, as they will encounter Elgar anyway. Refusing to work under Alex, a fire mage named Crocell steps out to mock Juto, and as Juto retaliates, Nephi knocks him down, pointing out he's far too weak to consider revenge yet, mentioning she too is pursuing Elgar for personal reasons. Calming down, Juto later asks to join Nephi's counter-sentinel unit, and she agrees, though warns him not to disobey orders for selfish reasons going forward. Their unit reviews their next objective, which is to take out the main base of the werewolves that have chosen to ally with the northern forces, preventing their progress through Old Fox Canyon. Engaging the werewolf forces, a strike against Nephi forces her to use her unique powers, and strange visions now hit Juto of the last time such a power was used by her. It's then explained Nephi belongs to the bloodline of the hero Strauss and has been gifted with powers similar to his, though she cannot fully control him. She did use the power to mortally wound even Elgar one time, though somehow he apparently survived. After defeating the werewolf boss and reclaiming the items they raided, Juto equips the gear of a fallen friend of theirs, and the group promptly returns back to base. Thinking on his recent actions, Juto feels the need to apologize for how selfish he acted before and seeks out Nephi, who is currently in strained talks with Alex, who behind her back has machinations of his own. Juto overhears much of this, and again reflects on the heavy burden she bears alone. Now preparing for a large operation in Old Fox Canyon, the War Council questions the effectiveness of Nephi's unit, which has yet to produce meaningful results, and in defiance, Juto accepts the challenge to defeat a Sentinel in the upcoming battle. As the gathered Southern forces storm to push the battle lines past the Gate of Wailing, Nephi's team breaks down the aforementioned wall and presses into the enemy lines, forcing them to retreat. Pursuing the enemy forces, they spot the confidant of Shuenzite, Claire, just ahead, who baits the group into a trap. She summons forth a powerful sentinel to finish them off, though the group manages to edge out a win, winning the day but finding themselves separated from the rest of the army. With the path forward leading to the Mare people, Nephi now thinks to use this as an opportunity to forge an alliance with them. As they move through the marshlands now, they see doom seeds begin to fall, which are known to kill out wizardry and vitality in an area, hence being called harbingers of doom. There is no known way to stop the doom seeds, except for an old saying claiming it can be done by the Magna Carta, the greatest of all Carta, which refers to Strauss. Moving on, because the Mare people dislike fighting and humans in general, they consider hiding the fact they are soldiers until they get to speak with the chief and propose their treaty. As they approach the village of the Mare, the people refuse to allow them in, but one girl named Celestine steps forward and declares love at first sight for Argo, making a case for allowing them in. They are granted audience before the chieftain, who immediately recognizes the princess and expresses her disapproval for her war effort. She also rejects the notion for an alliance with the southern forces, as the group falls victim to the Mare's trademark paralyzing incense. The group is confused why the chieftain would trap and capture them, and Celestine approaches them, explaining a southern forces group that even had a Trewa with them captured some Mare earlier, holding them hostage for food. Argo offers to rescue the captured Mare and deal with the soldiers who did it, and Celestine agrees to help them, provided Nephi stay behind as leverage. Joining their group, Celestine shows them the way, while also proving her skill with water and healing wizardry, and they learn the hostage takers are fake soldiers led by a Trewa Argo recognizes named Rutan. Rutan points out Argo used to be the chieftain of the Blue Moon Trewa tribe, and was responsible for destroying their homeland before running away to join the army. However, Argo counters a rival Blackhorn tribe conspired with Shuenzite to destroy their home, and thus why he joined the southern forces. Forced to defeat Rutan and his imposters, they rescue the hostages and gain the approval of the Mare chieftain, who still does not approve of their war, but will at least welcome Nephi. The next day, the northern forces march into the marsh as well, and Mare mobilize to repel them, but are unprepared and outnumbered. Fortunately, quick ice walls have limited enemy advance into one route, so the odds are still in their favor, but the enemy is still being led by the formidable Huaran. They clash with the wizard and force him to retreat, but suddenly doom seeds begin to fall, halting the groups and Mare's magic. As enemy soldiers encroach upon Nephi, strange energy again begins to form around Juto as he goes berserk once more, displaying inhuman speed and strength to crush the rest of the enemy. However, in the heat of the battle, he's about to strike at Nephi, though a voice in his head tells him she cannot be killed, and he stops his strike. Crocell acknowledges Juto's power now, but is off-put by it, since it's wild, abnormally strong, and unpredictable. Regardless, the village is saved, and in return, the chieftain agrees to form an alliance with the southern forces and render whatever assistance they can, though their first priority will still be in defending their homeland. All the same, she volunteers they take Celestine with them, who was actually half human after her father wandered into the village years ago, fell in love with her mother, and she was born. Unfortunately, her mother died shortly after her birth, and in grief, her father, a mercenary named Vizon, abandoned her and left on his own, though Argo actually recognizes this name as an accomplished mercenary. The Mare also offer strategic routes for the Southern forces as thanks, and with this knowledge, they move to regroup with their forces and report in. As they move, Juto and Zephi have a heart-to-heart chat, as Juto fears about learning who he was before losing his memory, though Zephi points out the past doesn't define who he is now, so he should believe in himself like she believes in him. He also points out how he admires her strength and believes in her mission now, though Celestine interrupts, thinking this to be a love confession. Moving through an underground tunnel hidden by the Mare, they are surprised to find a tomb of the hero Strauss built here by his wife with the help of the Mare. It also shares some ancient history, in that 1,000 years ago, Lahnheim was invaded by a race called the Carta that threatened to wipe out all life with their wizardry. It was then Strauss created the Guardians, based on the Carta's own body structure, to resist them. After using the Guardians to end the war, it was then Strauss sacrificed himself to infuse his energy into the world to revitalize it against the doom seeds that began falling around the world. As Celestine clears the hidden route back to Abazet, it's revealed Zephi is betrothed to Alex, though it's clear this is a political arrangement. The rest of the War Council is pleased to see the gains of the Counter-Sentinel unit has achieved, as the Southern forces have successfully won the battle for Olfox Canyon. Returning to Abazet, the next target is Dunan Hill, as Zephi's unit is assigned to take strategic points en route to targeting the commander of Darkblade Fortress. However, they're surprised to encounter Shuenzite briefly after revealing the shocking sight of Melissa, not only alive but a prominent member of the Northern Forces. She points out to Juto that since she wasn't killed by Elgar, that he has no reason to join the Southern Forces for revenge, and thus he should join her instead. They clash, though Juto wonders why she joined the Northern Forces, something she says Juto himself should know why better than anyone, and insists the Northern Army are the good guys. She leaves them with a Sentinel to deal with, and after defeating it, they are horrified to discover within how humans and other races are being crossbred with monsters to turn into Sentinels. Knowing this, Zephi now opposes the efforts the Southern forces have been taking to duplicate the creation process of their own Sentinels. Since the Sentinels were constructed after the original Guardians, she conjectures even Strauss may have resorted to such inhumane tactics to win the war, but they should not. Afterwards, Alex continues acting along his own agenda, though others are becoming wise to it. Elsewhere, we see Melissa talking with Claire, who is holding the safety of Highwind Island as leverage for her servitude. As it turns out, it was Claire who found Melissa half dead after her fight with Elgar and was impressed by her battle strength. After she told her the motivations behind the Northern Forces, she persuaded Melissa to fight to end the war quickly, with her homeland as hostage. The next day, Zephi introduces the unit to Rue, her stern and ruthless bodyguard, despite her age. Recently returned from a covert mission, she presents her findings, which is the creation process of Sentinels, including a master-servant spell called the Blood Pact that brings life to them and ensures absolute loyalty. In addition, the Guardian claim from Highwind Island is currently under study to make more powerful Sentinels, as the Northern forces have mostly pulled out of the island. Zephi then makes another appeal to Alex to retake the island since the enemy forces there are so low, even if it's just her unit, and he allows them just the window of time before the next major operation in order to accomplish it. Hurrying, they blitz the lingering Northern forces on the island and complete a successful liberation, much to Juto's relief and gratitude. However, Zephi asks him to then stay stationed here and captain troops to safeguard his home, but Juto insists he still has unfinished business with Melissa. The elder of the village then asks him to investigate the Old Guardian Cavern, as Northern forces have been taking villagers there, yet none ever returned. As they feared, the enemy was indeed using the prisoners as materials for Sentinel creation, and afterwards they ask the elder who took the villagers initially, and he reveals it was Elgar and Huarin. Returning to Abazet, Juto has another nightmare of striking down Zephi, and elsewhere Shuenzite proclaims he has all the resources he now needs to save the world as they move forward with their plan. Back in the base, the next operation will continue the campaign into Ruhalt Basin, littered with enemy landmines, as enemy forces are strategically withdrawing for a likely counterattack, meaning the Southern forces have an opportunity to secure this land. Meanwhile, Shuenzite appears personally before Alex to entice him with ambitions of becoming the next king himself, while their treachery is overheard. Later during the battle, Argo learns survivors of the Blue Moon tribe have built a hidden new village, and after navigating past the landmines of the basin, they meet and rescue a member of the Avi birdfolk named Igtin, who was captured while researching ways to reach Lestrada. A reluctant Melissa stands in their way again, and while she makes another plea for Juto to regain his memories and join her, she's about to reveal the special relationship Juto has to Elgar when Claire and a powerful new Sentinel arrive and interrupts them. Afterwards, Juto saves the group from a devastating explosion, though Nephi unconsciously shields him from harm, and Crocell notes how close the two have grown, while everyone else is truly thankful Juto is on the team. Returning back to their foothold base, they are surprised to find Xuanzite and Elgar there waiting for them. With binding magic, Xuanzite then commands Juto to kill everyone except for Nephi, and struggling to resist the compulsion magic, he slashes away Elgar's mask to reveal a face identical to his own. Elgar reminds Juto Xuanzite is their master, whose word they cannot disobey, though Juto was defective, as in the past, Juto was really the Elgar that disobeyed orders and almost killed Nephi in the past. Denying this revelation, Elgar invites Juto to come to Belfort, where they'll be holding the princess and witness the truth firsthand. Forcing Juto into a crazed state, the rest of the party is forced to battle Juto and knock him to his senses, as his memories come flooding back. As Nephi is taken away, Juto is forced to admit he was the original Elgar the Regicide, and he understands the group's sudden distrust of him, though Celestine speaks up in defense of his personality as Juto. She points out that just as Elgar is guilty of countless evil in the past, Juto is also responsible for saving so many lives, including their own. Rue confronts Juto on the last time they met in battle, and Juto explains he was assigned by Xuanzite to hunt and kill Rue, who found out the secret to the Sentinels, but was also under strict orders not to kill the princess. When Nephi took a mortal blow meant for Rue, it was counted as a disobeyed order and triggered a mental breakdown, thus how he lost his memory. He declares his intent to save Nephi, even though she hates Elgar, and pledges to the group that if Xuanzite takes control of him again, they can and should kill him, as even he cannot trust himself. They expect Nephi to be taken to the royal capital of Belfort and so make that their next destination, but are stopped suddenly as a warrant for the group's arrest has been issued by Alex himself. They find it awfully suspicious that Alex not only knows so much about the events that just happened, but also that he's able to mobilize before them. However, they refuse to be detained based on such false reports and resist arrest. Commander Raoud, who's been keeping tabs on Alex, steps in to deny Alex's warrant, and reveals to the group Alex's hand in the princess's kidnapping. He reveals Alex's treachery leads as far back as being the one to leak Rue's investigation mission that led to Juto as Elgar almost killing Rue and Nephi. As they near Belfort, they see an increased presence of doomseeds falling, and Juto recalls the hidden sanctuary Xuanzite kept in the city, betting that's where he took Nephi. It also comes out that Belfort used to be where Crocell is from, a former noble whose house and family were all killed for resisting Xuanzite, resulting in his jaded attitude. Meanwhile, Melissa is livid over learning the islanders were used as sentinel materials, breaking their promise to her. She declares her intent to leave, but Claire tells her the war will be over soon anyway. Puzzled, she inquires, but is suddenly gripped by a stabbing pain in her chest, of which Claire observes knowingly. Back with the group, they break into the castle and enter the Sentinel laboratory, cutting past the guards and rescuing the prisoners, until they meet a doctor named Nyx who nervously recognizes Juto as Elgar. He explains he was arrested for refusing to continue Sentinel research and reveals Juto was the first Elgar, while mentioning where he sighted the princess. Further in, they are shocked to find a room full of Juto clones, and Nyx then explains each of these are vessels created to be Elgar, which is a humanoid sentinel made by Xuanzite using the Blood Pact. Unlike the monstrous ones, these retain their intelligence as well as their power, yet still only obey him. Nyx mentions he was the creator for the vessels, and the second Elgar was activated after the first, being Juto was believed dead, but vows now to destroy all of the research data so a third cannot be made, even by accident. Furthermore, a master can only imprint a single hard command into their creation, and Juto's was that the princess cannot be killed, as they learned Xuanzite referred to Nephi as a Magna Carta. After learning that Celestine's missing father Vizin was also unfortunately turned into a sentinel, they reach the lowest level where they see Nephi alongside Xuanzite. She informs them the war is over, and their unit is disbanded, so they don't need to rescue her, and Xuanzite adds that she is the Messiah who would deliver the world from the Doomseeds. As such, he orchestrated this war so she would undergo trials to strengthen her into a more powerful Magna Carta. Elgar is there too to jeer at Juto, glad to accept the order to eliminate the group, as Nephi willingly leaves with Xuanzite. As his strength of will edges out a win against his bloodthirsty junior, Juto is finally able to cut down Xuanzite's enforcer once and for all. They learn Xuanzite has taken the princess deeper into the castle, and despite their urgency, Juto shows some maturity, advising them to be calm and regroup and not rush in after them, making a fatal mistake. As they emerge outside, they quickly hear word that Alex is now arranging a ceasefire between the southern and northern forces. Elsewhere, we see Alex revealing the truth of the war to an astonished Raoud, who insists there might have been another way. Alex confesses Elgar was created to be an alternate Magna Carta, but as it turns out, a fake cannot match the real thing, as he doesn't come from the Carta bloodline. He then moves to stand beside Shuenzite, as Nephi is publicly strung up. Shuenzite reminds everyone that after the Great Carta War, Lestrada has blessed the lands for 1,000 years of prosperity. However, that blessing is about to pass, as evident by the fluctuations in energy and rising presence of doom seeds. To this, he explains another Magna Carta can cleanse the world again for another age of prosperity, but through sacrifice as the hero Strauss did. He then flips the narrative of the war, explaining how he pointed out the necessity of the sacrifice of the princess was to save the world, yet the queen refused and branded him a traitor, forcing him to reluctantly kill her. He then states the princess knew her sacrifice was needed and orchestrated this whole civil war just to save herself and forsake the world of calamity. With this, the public is indeed swayed, as they now call for the death of the princess, and Juto gives a signal to move out and save her before it's too late. Getting close, Shuenzite compels Juto to obey him again with crushing authority, as Juto struggles to resist, managing to disrupt the ritual meant to sacrifice Nephi and forcing Shuenzite and Alex away. Though we say Nephi, she's not grateful, as she confronts him on really being Elgar and nearly killing her before. Juto pleads his case for wanting to save her, and again she refuses to listen, accepting the truth that she is the Magna Carta, and Shuenzite is right. Not giving up, Juto still insists they find another way, and the group opts to fall back to Kodamare, as the civil war is over, and now all the humans are riling against them. As they escape, Juto is still weakened under Shuenzite's magic, and Nyx is there to explain that because Juto rebelled against his master's orders, he was engineered to self-destruct in response and will soon die. Nephi asks if there is any way to save him, and as a Magna Carta, it is possible she can invoke the Blood Pact and re-imprint Juto to herself, saving him from his previous master's penalty by becoming his new master and infusing her life and wizardry into him. However, such a procedure is risky and she can lose her life in the process, not to mention Juto was the original Elgar, whom she hated anyway. After some thought, Nephi chooses to bring Juto back from the brink of death, and during this process, their minds are connected, as she now sees what goes on in his head. Fighting his incarnations of fear, loneliness, and anxiety, Nephi is forced to destroy all previous egos of Juto before her, awakening a new life within him. However, this form cheekily only agrees to return if Nephi herself agrees not to sacrifice herself as Magna Carta, and charmed, Nephi agrees to seek another way first, as they embrace and Juto returns to the world of the living. The group cheers as he sports a new look after cheating death, though he realizes being unable to refuse any of Nephi's orders is its own burden. As they set off to research the Old Carta War to find clues to help, they learn more about the world before the war and find out in the old days, humans had to till their food and learn agriculture techniques, as wizardry was rare and meager. The excess of magic in the world is actually not the normal state of the planet, and if anything, the Doom Seeds are nature's way of returning things to their natural state. Looking back at historical records of notable wars, they find it awfully suspicious that someone like Shuenzite emerges every few centuries, wields powerful sentinel-like monsters, and quietly disappears after finding the current Magna Carta and sacrificing them. The pattern seems the same, but the motive eludes them, as they are suddenly interrupted by Melissa coming to Kodamare. She starts by saying she quit the Northern Forces, and reveals that like in the previous wars, people have had their magical energy drained by the Sentinels, something normally only Carta can do. Shuenzite has been using the Sentinels to harvest people, and use that gathered energy to inject it into the Magna Carta and then sacrifice them, but not to save the world, but to maintain Lestrada. Lestrada turned the world into a fertile land, and for 800 years, Strauss's energy was enough. However, after that, every 150 years, a war has been started to sacrifice people to refuel Lestrada and maintain paradise. She points out that even if paradise were to fall, it's not like the world would end, only that magic would die and people would have to work harder to accomplish basic things again. She also points out that the reason the Carta died out in the last war was because Strauss actually harvested them on his own into himself before sacrificing himself and declaring himself a hero. After digesting this new information, Nephi declares her intent to destroy Lestrada, as the loss of a paradise is a lesser evil to perpetuating an eternal war just to sustain it. Their Avi friend Igden now speaks up, saying he knows the Northern Forces have a way to teleport themselves to Lestrada and has already been using it, and trying to steal it was why he was captured to begin with. Fortunately, he remembers finding and memorizing the blueprints for the device and helps them build a substitute. Along the way for constructing materials, Melissa collapses over in pain, as it's evident Claire brought Melissa back from near death by making her into a human sentinel, but now her body's rejecting it as she suddenly turns into a monster. Forced to strike down the only person he could ever call family, Melissa now dies, but with no regrets. But there is no time to grieve as the Northern and Southern combined forces attempt to invade Kodamari again to take the princess. Claire takes the battlefield personally, as Juto is enraged at what she did to Melissa and succeeds in driving her away for now. Burying Melissa properly now, preparations are now complete to teleport to Lestrada. Cutting past the unified enemy army, as old alliances are tragically lost, they encounter Alex and confront him on his knowing betrayal. He claims they all owe their lives to Strauss, and feels sacrificing even thousands of people is just a small price to pay for the greater good of Lansheim. As both ideals clash, they succeed in striking down the ambitious would-be king, and waste no time in activating the device to teleport to Lestrada. Encountering odd and ancient trials and monsters in the relic, they cross paths with Huarun and Claire, unable to see eye to eye, and not backing down as they cut down both generals of Shuenzai's forces. Knowing that they move forward with the hatred of the general populace against them, they advance to the final stage, where Shuenzai waits for them, and they are shocked to not only see the corpse of Strauss before them, but that Shuenzai is an exact duplicate of Strauss. He explains that just as he made a clone army of Elgars, so too was he made, and it was prior duplicates that started the previous wars centuries ago. Unfortunately, with the duplication, he could not become a Magna Carta again, and thus why he sought to find and sacrifice the Magna Carta in each age. The group challenges him in selfishly trying to bend the world to his will like a god, calling it salvation, as Juto, Zephi, Argo, Crocel, Celestine, and Rue all push themselves to take down the duplicate of Strauss, and then the true body of the self-proclaimed creator of paradise. As he falls, Strauss reminds them the loss of wizardry would mean humanity would face a future of toil and struggle, where the sick and injured are much more likely to die, and even sentinels would die out, including Juto. Juto chuckles, claiming he knew that all along, as he dives into Strauss to deal the final blow to destroy Lestrada. Zephi attempts to force him down, but Juto defies her, opting to break free of the fate they've been stuck to for so long, but still promising her he won't die. As the group escapes back to Lansheim without Juto, his thoughts linger onto Zephi as Lestrada begins to crash down from the sky. As the game ends, 3 years pass, as humanity is going through the growing pains of learning how to live without magic again, and the princess and group are still publicly scorned. Still, the hope she clung to is taking fruit, as people are adapting to this new lifestyle, as innovations in technology and medicine begin taking root. It's unclear if the world will come around and agreeing that the choice they made was the right one, but suddenly, the blood-packed rune on her hand connecting her to Juto pulsates to life. Following the rune to the ruins of Lestrada, the Princess of Lansheim is relieved to find and welcome back the hero Juto, as he never stopped thinking of her. Magna Carta 2 has enjoyed the success of selling over 300,000 copies worldwide.